You're listening to the Bass Gorilla podcast with Zenflex, session number 3. Ba-boom cats, ba-boom cats. Welcome to the Bass Gorilla podcast, revealing production techniques used by the top bass music producers in dubstep, drum and bass, and glitch hop. With your host, Zenflex. Yeah. Catch weekly exclusive interviews with some of the most innovative producers and the owners of the most phenomenal bass music labels in the business. Hey, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. This is Zenflex from BassGorilla.com, the website that's designed to help producers get better at producing things like dubstep, drum and bass, glitch hop, newer hop, trap, and all the other forms of delicious bass music that exist in the world today. So, in today's episode, which is session number 3, we have an exclusive interview with Rocco from Blunt Instrument. And before we get started, I'd just like to say, if you've been listening to these podcasts already and you've heard session 1 with Coffee or session 2 with Il Isha, then you'll know that I've been asking people to help me out at the start of the show and at the end. Basically, if you could just go into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, it's going to help us to spread the word about the Bass Gorilla podcast and help us to rank highly in the new podcast charts. So that's basically how the podcast algorithm works. And if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. And as I said last time, I will love you long time for doing it for me. So go and do that and get some Zenflex love in exchange. And with that said, let's crack on with this interview with Rocco. So Rocco is one half of a phenomenal duo from Australia called Blunt Instrument, and they're very well known in the glitch hop scene. So Rocco, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Rocco, you're one of the 2 guys of Blunt Instrument, and the name of the other guy is Luke, right?
It is, yes. He can't be with us today. He's got some other engagements, I'm sorry, but he's with us in spirit.
That's too bad. He has a classy name, man. So how did you and Luke first meet up and then get into DJing and then production?
We knew each other in high school initially, but we didn't really have much to do with each other. He went to a different high school and he sort of came to the parties that I used to have in high school. And then when sort of high school wrapped up, we just sort of ended up reconnecting again at another party and realized we were both sort of really into the same kind of music and started sort of collecting records and sort of, DJing a bit together and both getting into that. And it sort of just all sort of, flowed on from a lot of the DJing and record collecting really. So, yeah.
So you guys actually started off by DJing as opposed to producing. And I think some of the first things that you used to do was DJing as a pair on 4 decks, 4 turntables. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I got into the sort of DJing side of it probably a little bit before Luke, and I got exposed through some other friends of mine to a lot of early sort of instrumental hip hop, a lot of Ninja Tune, a lot of that sort of stuff coming out of the UK. And yeah, when I sort of showed that to Luke, he was, really excited, and we were both obviously into a lot of drum and bass and new school breaks and that sort of stuff at the time as well. And yeah, we just sort of started jamming together, and yeah, we put together a sort of a 4-deck thing. Just a lot of records and a lot of craziness and a lot of potential for things to sound terrible. But it was good fun, and that's where we sort of really sort of, I guess, started to appreciate really good sounding beats, and then just started to get interested, I guess, in making a few of our own. So yeah.
So what was it about glitch hop that made you guys come to focus on that instead of something else like dubstep or drum and bass?
Well, I guess initially when we sort of started, I guess sort of trying to write this sort of stuff many years ago, there wasn't really a name for it. We got really, I guess, inspired by, people like Tipper, especially when Tip Hop first came out. We kind of we lost our minds basically, because it was all the elements of hip hop with all the elements of all the electronic music. So it was like all the synths and heavy bass of drum and bass and new school breaks combined with that sort of funk and swagger of hip hop. And it was just sort of mind blowing. And then we sort of just tried to get more of that kind of music and find more of it. And, you know, we got into like, you know, Bass Nectar and all that sort of early stuff. And then it just sort of steamrolled from there. That was kind of the sound that we were really into, and that was our sort of background. So we really tried to sort of, I guess, come up with our own sort of variation on that.
And what's the bass music scene like in Australia? Because it seems to me that you guys have a lot of really prominent glitch hop artists, yourself being one of them. Whereas in other places in the world, maybe dubstep or drum and bass is a lot more popular. So yeah, what's it like?
Well, it's a bit of a, you know, the scene in Australia is obviously much smaller. We don't have like a huge population here. I guess drum and bass used to be more popular, if that's, I guess, a fair way of doing it. Probably sort of 5, even sort of 10 years ago, drum and bass was a much more sort of prominent kind of like dance music in clubs and in festivals. It's starting to have a bit of a resurgence in Australia these days. Dubstep has, I think, you know, it's sort of, Australia took a little while to catch on with the dubstep sort of craze. We didn't get that early sort of influx of dubstep from the UK. It took a little while, but there is a lot of dubstep that's played out in the clubs. But, I mean, we've got a really thriving sort of glitch hop and neuro hop sort of community here. We've got a lot of amazing producers and a lot of people just doing interesting things with the sound. So it's a great place to be in that kind of game.
Okay, so obviously you guys have had a ton of successes to date already, and I want to spend a minute to talk about those for some of the audience listening who aren't so familiar with your material. First off, I'd like to ask you about your remix that you did of Caleb's Need to Know, which reached #1 on the Beatport Glitch Hop charts. First of all, I guess I just want to ask, how did it feel to hit #1, and were you surprised at all?
We were completely surprised, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it took us, yeah, completely by surprise. I mean, we've never really had any expectations of that kind of success with our music. I mean, we're, you know, two dudes, no connections in the music industry, just writing our beats, and the fact that we chart on Beatport at all is, you know, constantly surprising to us. But that was a huge surprise. But at the same time, we, like, once we got those stems from Caleb, like, we knew it was going to be just an awesome remix just to play around with. I mean, just the combination of stuff that was there for the picking was just amazing. So no, it was a complete shock, but yeah, it was great.
And how long did it take you guys to make that remix from start to finish?
Well, our tunes, we tend to spend a lot of time. We're very finicky when it comes to, you know, the little details and getting stuff just right. That was also the first track where we moved, like, we had a big shift in our production sort of techniques. We moved away from using, I guess, Massive as the main sort of bass synth, and started using more contact and resampling and playing around with a lot of that kind of stuff. So it took I guess a little bit longer because we were learning a lot as we were doing it. We also, I guess, with that track as well, we kind of took it in one direction and just, you know, weren't feeling the direction we were taking it in, and went out and had a beer and went, yeah, no, we need to do this as a halftime big swagger sort of monster. So then went back and redid it. So I guess the blueprint was laid down within about 1 to 2 days, like 3 days maybe, and then the final product was probably 2 weeks with bits and pieces of work here and there. So yeah.
And do you prefer working on remixes, or do you prefer making your own tracks from scratch?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I mean, at the end of the day, for us, I guess it's all music. I guess the reason a lot of the stuff we started off with early on was, you know, like the bootlegs, those kind of remixes where you just get an old track and chop it up and beef it up and put a big dirty bass line under it and stuff. So that's kind of where we learnt a lot of our sort of stuff from. So we always love remixing, and it's also just that kind of reinterpretation of someone else's work, especially when you really dig the original work. It's great to be able to go, okay, well, can we put a unique sort of spin on this? Um, but originals at the same time, it's you've got a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want. You can take it in whatever direction. There's no sort of, you haven't got anything to start with, and so you can build it up from scratch, and you can get a unique sound palette. I think I equally enjoy both elements of the game, and with that as well, like collaborating with other people as well is also another kind of production as well. So yeah, it's all good in its own sort of way.
Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is actually a completely different artist altogether. He's been a hero of mine, and I know he's been a big influence for you guys back in the days. He is DJ Shadow. So
Oh yeah.
the reason why I want to talk about him is you guys remixed his track Scale It Back, and in addition to that, he's actually played some of your tracks in his shows. Like he played your track called The Pocket at Coachella. And I just wanted to ask, have you ever met him before?
Never. Honestly, I think it'd be a bit awkward if we did, where just sort of like a bit of hero worship style. But no, never been in a situation where we've been able to have a chat to him, and I think that's why we were even more surprised to hear that he was aware of us and actually playing our music. That, it just completely caught us by surprise. It was one of those just sort of little gems that sparks up your day. So yeah, but we've never had a chance to talk directly with him or meet him in any way. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know a lot of hip hop producers make all their tracks using only samples, but the level of detail that Shadow puts into his tracks and the amount of different samples, it's just mind blowing to think he makes such incredible music using just samples, isn't it?
See, for me, like introducing was just the pinnacle of like sample based hip hop, and I guess the one off like Building Steam with a Grain of Salt off that just that was I think I probably wore out my copy on vinyl of that just from playing it over and over again. It's got the deepest grooves in the world, but it's just that combination. I really dig that combination of like a heavy beat with like beautiful sort of ethereal sounds on top, and like that's I really love that about that Shadow's work, and especially that early stuff. It's very raw, just beautiful rhythms and just beautiful melodies over the top. But yeah, probably have to be my favorite. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, hearing his first album is the whole reason why I put down the guitar and saved up enough money to buy my first ever sampler. So, and then proceeded to blow all my money on vinyls.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing, that, isn't it? Yeah.
But so much fun to use, right?
So much fun. We went out and bought early. Well, we were using like an old Yamaha RS 7000 for a while there, which was the old hardware kind of samplers, which are long gone these days. But yeah, it used to be fun trying to make music on that kind of stuff. But that's extra respect for people like Shadow who are actually able to pull it off and make it sound good.
So moving on. You guys are playing at Earth Frequency Festival later this month, which is a absolutely huge festival in Australia. So for anyone who's listening who hasn't heard of it, could you kind of just explain a little bit about what the festival is all about?
Well, it's one of the summer festivals here in Australia. It's been going for quite a number of years now. Probably, I honestly don't know. I think it's about 10 years or so. And this is probably the third time that we've been involved with the festival. It's about 3 or 4 days of camping, probably about 2.5 hours north of Brisbane. And over the last few years, the lineups sort of changed from a lot of used to be a sort of, I guess, a heavier trance focus, and now it's much more getting a lot more sort of a balance between trance, a lot of glitch hop, bits pieces of dubstep, and some drum and bass this year as well. And it's a really beautiful festival. It's really well put together, great sound systems, beautiful markets, beautiful people, lots of beautiful art installations, and just generally a good time. So, yeah.
Nice. And which day are you guys playing on?
I think we're on 8 till 9 on the Sunday, just before Opio. So, yeah, that should be great fun. But yeah, there's heaps of amazing acts. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Which other artists from around the world are you looking forward to meeting up with and maybe seeing some of their shows?
Uh, I believe it or not, like Love and Light were in town today and ended up catching up with them, and that was great. Very keen to hear some of their new stuff on a big system. Always keen to hear J-Pod, love his stuff, and yeah, I'd love to always love his sets. Haven't seen Sticky Buds will be there. I haven't seen his set. And Moldy Soul was on before us as well. Very keen to hear what that's sounding like. So yeah, there's lots of stuff, and then all the Australian standards, all your spoonbills and your opios as well, are always just great to listen to. So yeah.
So, congratulations to both of you guys for having an awesome EP which has just come out recently, Audible Space.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, do you have any favorite tracks on the EP?
Oh, see, it'd have to be a toss up between sort of Tea Party or Twilight Council for me. I mean, I really enjoy that sort of slightly slower 90 BPM stuff, like a bit more of that hip hop kind of swagger to it. So I really enjoy the Twilight. But like I guess they're all sort of very different in their own way. So I guess, and we use them very differently as well. So it's very hard to say an outright favorite, but probably one of those two.
So I know that you guys are working on a ton of new material and you got a load of new music coming out later this year. What can you share with us right now about what you've got coming out later in 2013?
Yeah, I got lots and lots of stuff in the pipeline as always. Got a new Defunk remix that should be coming out sometime soon. We've got a Gillian Ann remix that's coming out sometime soon. Got a Proper Things remix, which we're working on, and a Haywire remix that we're playing around with as well, and a bunch of originals. Just finished a remix for Dysphemic and Miss Eliza, another Australian sort of glitch hop outfit, and just constantly got originals, which we sort of just potter with in between, sort of all the other remixes and stuff. So lots of stuff, yeah, in a constant stream.
Now, for the producers listening, I think that you guys are really, really good at getting a really, really tight sounding bass, and your bass sounds just sound wicked to me. So, do you have any kind of tips or advice on like how we can get that really tight sounding bass that you guys always seem to be able to get?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on how you define sort of like tightness, whether it's a matter of like the sound spectrum or the movement of the actual sort of sound. We basically do. Luke and I really sort of split up the production process a lot. So Luke tends to do a lot more of the actual bass design work, and I tend to do a lot more of, I guess, like the sequencing, the drums, and a lot of our basses are combinations of big moving dynamic sounds and then a lot of chopped up sort of sounds on very specific sort of grooves. So it kind of is that combination of big intense sounds, but also really punchy kind of tight grooves. So it's there's a lot of there's everyone's got their own sort of tricks for doing bass, but we tend to use a lot of resampling to get, I guess, thick full moving sounds, and then a lot of actual manual edits to, you know, chop things up or automate things on a specific sort of groove. So yeah.
Okay. And the next question I have is, what do you wish you had known about production when you first started out that you know now?
That's a huge list. That's, yeah, I mean, we're constantly learning. I mean, this is the whole sort of beauty of music production and why we're so fascinated by it is you can never know it all. I mean, I imagine Noisia is still probably learning how to, you know, do new tricks every day as well, and that's the beauty of it. In terms of any one sort of specific trick, I mean, it really depends on, I guess the most important thing is, you know, work out what a track is supposed to do. Like, is this track supposed to be a big banger? Is this track supposed to be a more chilled instrumental vocal kind of thing? And it really is, it's a matter of like making that track do what it's supposed to do. And within that, making each sound do what it's supposed to do for that track. And that's, I guess, the big thing. We used to, you know, think things were missing in a mix and throw more stuff at a track, like throw another synth line or another percussion line or another this. And the more we learn, the less stuff we're actually putting in our music, and the more we're trying to make each element just stronger of its own accord.
Yeah, a lot of the other producers who I've interviewed have said the same kind of thing, that it's very easy to just get carried away and make things over complex. And I know that's something that a lot of beginners also find themselves doing, but it's just interesting to find that really experienced and really well-respected producers also face the same kind of challenge, you know, of putting too many elements in one track.
Yeah, it really is. It's a matter, like, you know, it's very easy in the production process to get, you know, overexcited and, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and that and put this in this. But, you know, the more time you spend on making each element be as awesome as it can, you don't need, you know, 20 elements. You just need 3 really interesting elements, you know, and that's the challenge, I guess.
So I know as well from doing a little bit of research on you guys before doing this interview, I found out that you're both huge fans of Noisia and also Cohen Sound. Now, I know both of those artists are legendary, but I wanted to ask your take on it and find out, what is it about their music that you like so much?
Well, I guess, you know, when with this kind of music, with like, you know, this sort of bass music or mid-tempo, glitch hop, whatever you want to call it, I guess the most interesting thing from our point of view, from my point of view, is a combination of fatness and funkiness. And when you can get that big, huge sound that has an amazing funk to it, it's, for me, that's the perfect dance music, you know, and that's why it's I have a lot of respect for producers who are able to get that kind of, you know, that real funk into their music, but also make it very technically sound, very, you know, big sounding, so that it, you know, melts people's faces on a 20K rig. You know, it's a very difficult. I guess the more that we learn, the more we respect people like Noisia, you know, like Cohen, like Opio, who are able to get that big sound, but also keep the funk and keep it fresh and interesting.
Yeah, wicked, man. So we're coming towards the end of the show, and is there anyone out there that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, God, you put me on the spot. Well, there's so many people, like so many people who've helped us all along the way, like especially Aaron at Simplify Records, who, you know, got us on board many years ago, and listening to our old stuff. I don't know why, but thank you for getting us on board, Aaron. And so many people who we've learned so many different things from over the years, like our mastering engineer Kiro continues to, you know, help us learn more. And yeah, so many people out there. But yeah, to everyone who has helped us along the way.
Okay, well, it's been absolutely wicked speaking with you, Rocco. And I just want to tell everybody, for those who don't know, where they can find you online. So, of course, you have soundcloud.com/Blunt Instrument, and then facebook.com/Blunt Instrument. And then, of course, you also have the Blunt Instrument website, which is www.bluntinstrumentmusic.com. But I wondered if there's anything else that I've missed out that might be worth telling people about.
There's possibly some sort of Twitter or something as well. I don't know. There's endless amounts these days, isn't there? You know. So no, but that's all the main ones. Thanks, Luke. Man, it's awesome.
Awesome. So Rocco, thank you so much for being on session number 1 of the Bass Gorilla podcast. It's been really great speaking with you and learning all about Blunt Instrument. And we look forward to hearing more tunes from you guys in 2013.
Thanks for having me, Luke. It's been great. And yeah, hopefully have some fresh tunes for you very soon.
All right. Peace out, homie.
Excellent. Peace.
Okay, so there we have it. The interview with Rocco from Blunt Instrument. And hopefully at some point later in one of the shows, we can even get Luke on the show and hear even more about news that they'll have at that time in the future. But let's see what happens with that. If you are not familiar, or even if you are familiar with their music, go and check out Blunt Instrument and learn more about what they have. Like, their music is incredible. It's always very, very high quality and original stuff. And that concludes session number 3 of the Bass Gorilla podcast. So if you haven't subscribed to our website, it's BassGorilla.com. I'd recommend you to do that so you get loads of great information, tips and tricks, and things like that about production. Also, if you could go into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, as I mentioned, that's really going to help us out and help to spread the word about BassGorilla.com. You know, we're new. We appreciate any kind of publicity you can give us, well, as long as it's good publicity. But yeah, if you can just spread the word with your friends on Facebook and things like that, it's going to help us out tremendously. So until next time, Reese's Pieces. Yeah.